Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of From a Woman to a Leader, a podcast dedicated to discussing women's unique challenges in the tech industry. I'm your host, Limor Bergman-Gross, and this episode is part of Season 3, Negotiate Like a Woman. Today, we're taking another aspect of negotiation. It starts actually before you negotiate. It starts with your mindset, which is, I would say, probably the most important aspect to look for. And my special guest today is Samantha Kozuch. Samantha is the founder of the Manuscript Journal. She's a motivational speaker and a seasoned entrepreneur with over 10 years of experience in building multiple successful online businesses. And in this episode, Samantha shares her invaluable insights on why self-worth is essential for successful negotiation. But not just that. Samantha provides practical steps to overcome self-doubt, step out of your comfort zone, and navigate societal stereotypes. It doesn't matter if you negotiate a salary, a promotion, or simply advocating for yourself in your daily life. I'm sure that Samantha's advice will empower you to align your inner beliefs with your goals and master negotiation with confidence. Let's dive in and learn how to become powerful negotiators and leaders with Samantha Kozuch. Let's dive right in. Hi, Samantha. How are you?
I'm doing so good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here and welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm really excited to jump into this juicy conversation that I know we're about to have.
Yes, definitely. And my third season is focused on negotiation, persuasion, because this is an area where women, struggle a little bit with. Let's put it that way.
Yes, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So let's try to dive into that. And you mentioned to me earlier when we talked something that I really resonated with, because you talked about your self-worth and how it is important before you even go to negotiation.
Yes. So with negotiation, right? Sales, business, any of that sort of stuff, right? You can go into all of the classes, get all of the coaches, get all the sales tactics and how to say things and word things and everything. But at the end of the day, if you personally yourself don't believe in those words and feel like you're even worthy, like for example, if you're trying to go in and negotiate a higher salary or a promotion or even getting a job or anything like that, if you're going in and you have the qualities, you have the abilities, but if you truly feel like, oh my gosh, I know I'm not deserving of this, or I just don't believe that I can have it, or if you have any of that doubt, that even judgment against yourself, it's going to come across energetically in how you deliver things. Like you could really be like one of the best speakers and put on this mask and this facade, but deep down inside, if you don't believe that you truly deserve it and that you truly even just want it, right? Because sometimes for women too, it's that want. It's that, oh, well, if I go ask for this, or if I really think that I want this, oh, I'm being selfish. I'm taking it away from somebody else, right? So it's like this combination of really growing and building that inner self-worth, that inner confidence. So that way, when you do step up to say that thing at the meeting, or, ask your boss of something or go for that job or anything like that, right? You're going to be that much more powerful and impactful when you actually truly believe it at your core too.
Absolutely, and this is so critical. I just had a client this week that she wanted to move to another job. And she said she constantly failed at interviewing because she has this self-doubt about herself, about is she worthy? Is she good enough?
Yes. Yeah. I feel like I come across that all the time, like not even in the job space, but as you're building your business, or you're building your clientele, or you're going out and maybe you're going on podcasts or speaking on stages or anything like that. I think that inner self-worth like isn't just, in this negotiation space. It rolls over into every single aspect of life, right? And then it's like maybe you turn into like, I think some of the key, not properties, but qualities about someone, is like, are you more of a people pleaser? Are you not willing to speak up? Those types of things. And when you live in that state, like I feel like I don't like life is quote unquote a little bit harder for you because you have this inner turmoil of like you want and desire these things, but you're not a match to them, right? Because in your head or in your soul, you're just like, I don't want it. I'm not worthy. Like I really, don't believe it. And you can't trick your mind
Yeah.
just for a moment going into an interview and say, no, I really want this job. But you can't do that for a second. It's a full on like overhaul of that subconscious programming that needs to happen.
Yeah. So let's talk about building that self-worth because I know I struggle with it and you struggle with it. So I'd love to hear from you, maybe based on your experiences, how you do that.
Yeah, I think at first, one of the key ways that I really started building my self-worth was on my own by myself. It wasn't me, speaking up in meetings right away or going to talk to people or like going for what I wanted. It started more inwards. So for me, I really just started getting my thoughts out on paper, right? And writing it down and truly like writing down exactly what I want, how I want it, whether it's financial, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a job, whether it's a client, like truly what I want that to look and feel like. And then from there, kind of taking that like small action on it. So this action doesn't have to be this big grand gesture, but I would start becoming aware of how I'm showing up in my life, and that inner self confidence for me meant, was I not speaking my truth on things? For example, the littlest things that where do you want to go eat for dinner? Right. And deep down, I knew, oh, well, I really want to go eat, I don't know, chicken, but my friends want to go to a seafood place. I'd be the one to be like, oh, actually, do you guys want to check out this place? Like doing these little things to kind of speak up and almost start using my voice a little bit to not only gather that self-worth, that's kind of started on the paper, but to build that self-confidence with being able to use my voice in a way that built all of that together. So that was kind of like the first starting steps. And then after that, I also feel like when you have this inner doubt, it's because we're also in our comfort zone. And when we're maybe for the first time going to ask for that promotion or you're going in for that job interview, right? A lot of times you either haven't done it before, maybe you're applying for a new job, it's a new environment, it's a new career. So ultimately, your comfort zone, your ego's like nervous, it's scared, it wants to keep you comfortable. So almost like kind of self-sabotages you to not perform as well or not to speak your truth fully, right? Because you're not radiating this confidence because you're doing something out of the unknown. So I think with, for example, like your client that's been going to multiple interviews and she didn't do well or didn't get the job, I would tell someone like her, it's like, hey, actually, let's go back to the drawing board, find the root cause of like, what is this job that you actually want? Are you going out for these interviews? Are you just going out to literally practice? Some people do that just to get good interview skills under their belt. Are these jobs that you're going out for, are you actually in alignment with that position? Like, is it everything that you wanted? Is it the pay? Is it the location? Is it the job description? Like, what is it? Because I think also we tend to go for things or ask for things that we actually don't really desire. We're just doing it because maybe society told us to do it or someone told us, that we need to go do that. But if it's not fully resonating and aligning with what we actually want, then we're also going to kind of like self-sabotage ourselves and not show it fully. So I feel like this self-worth concept is like a mixture of so many things. But I think at the end of the day, when you come back to yourself and get really clear on those things that you want, and you almost like have to take those baby steps to start showing up as that woman and as that person, that's where you're going to start gaining your confidence. And it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. It's building a skill truly, because for so long you were having these different thoughts and cycles inside your head and the way that you were acting and showing up. It's like you can feel like you're turning into this different person, which you are, because you're strengthening that self-worth and you're growing that inner strength and confidence too.
Absolutely. And you mentioned a lot of great things. So let me try to recap. I think that I loved what you said about practicing small in the daily operations of life. Like, you don't need
Yes.
to take huge risks, doesn't have to be in the workplace. Just do those little things. Yes, I want to eat this for dinner, not that. That's what I want. I want to go that way, not that way, because that's what I want. So just
Yes.
practicing.
Yes. And I think for a lot of women, especially, when we speak our desires, we believe that we're selfish. And that's just really old programming from us being told to be like quiet and speak up and go with the flow. And, oh my gosh, if you go against the grain, you're a bitch. Like, all these different things where we've been taught like our voices are almost like harmful, right? So it can feel a little bit more harder in the beginning to stand into your power and truth, but I promise it's like once you start using that voice and it matches with what you actually desire, like that's when you see those confident women, like we all see them on like social media or YouTube or listen to podcasts where you can just feel in their energy, like, oh, this woman, like she knows exactly who she is. She's going for exactly what she wants and she's getting it too. So I feel like it's just like this full on beautiful energy that happens when you actually start speaking and acting your truth in full alignment.
Absolutely. And you mentioned also getting out of your comfort zone, which I'm a true believer on, right? This is super, super
Mhm.
important. And you can take small
Mhm.
steps, very tiny steps to practice it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I always talk about it when I was even just starting on kind of this changing my life journey of, going for things and gaining my confidence and building my self-worth. It was like as simple as just changing things in your routine. Like, for example, if you just drive to work a certain way, drive a different way. If you go to the gym at this time, go to the gym at a different time, get into new surroundings, meet new people, um, be more open, especially if you're like going out in public at the grocery store, say hello, how are you? Like build this like confidence and inner worth to knowing that you can even just have a quick exchange with a stranger. I feel like just all of this is helps you get out of your comfort zone because all of us just like run on this routine, right? Like for many of us, we just wake up, we go throughout our day, go to sleep, and it's like it's automated. It's so automated, and that's very, very comfortable. So as you start just kind of like doing little things outside of your comfort zone, it's also going to help gather and build that confidence and self-love. So,
Definitely. So getting out of the autopilot mode, I would say.
ah, yes,
Yes. Yes.
exactly.
I constantly try to find ways to challenge myself. I just got like, for example, today I'm going to do a keynote for some company. I'm constantly looking for ways I can actually get myself out of my comfort zone and try, as you
Yeah,
said, try something new you haven't done before.
yes.
Constantly. And when you train those muscles all the time of getting out of the comfort zone, you gain more and more and more confidence in yourself.
Yeah, and I truly believe like the first couple times, because I remember, back in my mid 20s when I just kind of became aware of all of these concepts and self worth and confidence and ego and stepping out of the comfort zone and being an entrepreneur and all of that. I remember the first times like making big decisions, whether it was to even start a business or pivot a business and that sort of stuff. And it was so scary because that feeling of being out of your comfort zone was so kind of like unknown to me. It's a strange feeling if you haven't done it before. And a lot of people, right, don't. They're just on autopilot every single day. But over my 10 years of being an entrepreneur now, I know what that feeling feels like. And it doesn't, even though it scares me, right? It's scary to get out of your comfort zone, but I lean into it because it's like, oh, wait, this is scary. I'm getting out of my comfort zone. Oh my gosh. Even though it is scary, it's like this weird, interesting thing your mind does where for me, I lean forward more into it because I know, oh, I'm getting out of my comfort zone. I'm going to experience growth here. And I feel aligned with what that thing is that I'm doing. So that means like I have to do it. And that's all to say is like you do start getting quote unquote used to this feeling of being uncomfortable. Not that it gets easier, it's just easier to understand those feelings and emotions instead of, oh, that's scary, I'm not going to do it and I'm just going to back off. It's more just like, oh, this is it. This is my next level of growth that I'm about to experience if I go forward with this and I lean into it further. And again, the more often you start going out of your comfort zone, what happens? You're going to build that confidence, which is also going to impact your self-worth. And it's just such a beautiful progression of really truly stepping into that woman, that leader, that founder, that boss, whoever, whatever it is that you're doing, that mom, even teacher, whatever it is that you do, it's just going to empower you that much more.
Absolutely. Amen to that. And now let's talk about some, you did mention some stereotypes. So let's talk about those stereotypes about women and how women should behave versus, what we want to do, right? Because we do want to stand out for ourselves.
Yeah, I feel like the stereotypes and, I've been an entrepreneur now for 10 years. I haven't ever worked in corporate or anything like that, but I see and I understand it from clients and that sort of thing of what's going on in different workspaces or even not in corporate, even if you're, a stay-at-home mom or, anything like that. But I feel like as women, when we know what we want, when we speak to that, or when we go against something, right, then, we're called the B word, where, we're just like, all of those words that kind of surround that. And it just kind of goes back to just talking about, a lot of women, they are just so passive. It's that people pleasing. It's not even that most women are people pleasing or passive. It's just that we tend to want to keep the calm, right? We want to keep everything and everyone happy and all of that, which at the end of the day, we suffer when it comes to that, because there's probably multiple times, and even for the listener listening right now, it's like, I'm sure there's a time or two or three that you can think of where you didn't speak up on your truth and you didn't speak up with what you wanted. And internally you were miserable. You're like, oh my gosh, like this, I hate this. Like this sucks. Like I don't want this anymore. So I feel like that's kind of like the stereotypicalness of it. The biggest one is, if you speak up, if you go for what you want, you're a bitch, you're not a girl's girl, you're selfish, you're all of these different things, which at the end of the day, I also feel like, yes, there are people, both genders, right? Of like, yes, like they could be really rude and they could be really mean and bitchy and all that sort of stuff, right? But at the end of the day, I also think like, if I am looking at someone or experiencing someone that is like in their power of knowing what they want and all that, and if I think that that's what they are, no, that's a reflection on me, right? That's probably just my insecurities coming out. And that's what it is. It's a reflection of like, hey, you don't have these qualities or traits that you kind of wish that you had. So I feel like when it comes to the stereotyping, like that's all it is. I feel like there are some trueness to it, but at the same time, don't fear stepping into that either.
Yes, and we shouldn't be so bogged down with what people think about us. And this is one thing that I see women again and again so much concerned about what people would think about them and whether they're going to be liked. Sometimes we have to let it go.
Yeah, you have to, because I always put it this way, and I think just being an entrepreneur for so long, and like those people aren't paying my bills, right? Like that's how I think at the end of the day. Like you're not paying for my bills, you're not living my life, and unless, and I don't think that I'm like a mean person by any means or do anything intentionally to harm someone, but if someone doesn't like me, doesn't like what I'm saying or what I'm doing, again, it's a reflection of them, and you can't let those people determine your destiny ultimately, right? Because if you listen to, not everyone's going to love you. It's impossible, right? Like if you have any sort of opinion on anything, even if it's the best opinion in the world about something, there's going to be someone that's always going to ridicule you. You didn't do it good enough. You said it incorrectly. You did it wrong. Oh, but what about this person and that and this group of people? Like you can't make everyone happy. So why let anyone make you upset either?
That's true. And let's talk about negotiating, because I had this vision in my head. Negotiation has to be like something very aggressive, very heated, um, sometimes even shouting. Like I
Yeah.
have this
Yeah.
image in my head, but it doesn't have to be that way. And I know it doesn't. It can
Mhm.
do. Actually, it can be quite pleasant. So, can you share
Yeah.
maybe from your perspective an experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like, I mean, in business or relationships, with anything, it's always right how the tone of how you come across, right? And sometimes, especially in business, and during email, sometimes it's hard to, right? Because you can't tell somebody's tone or even in a conversation. But if there's something that I don't like or something that, I want more of, or if there's any changes I want to make to something that we're negotiating on, I take first instead of just reacting and being like, say a client comes to me and is like, oh, Sam, like, we want to offer you $1,000 to do XYZ project, right? And if I take that personally, as far as, oh my gosh, they only think I'm worth $1,000, screw these people. Oh my God, absolutely not. Like, like if I react like that, and write something hasty back or on the call or something like that, or, my attitude changes, then that can get really ugly and nasty. And no one's probably going to walk away from the table getting anything, right? It's just how the deal's going to die. So for me, I have learned, and this has taken a lot of learning and practice, especially, if you have like, regardless if you have like a big ego, or if you just like, if you get easily offended, that kind of thing, this is where it can kind of bite you to have that sort of like lash out reaction. But for me, whenever I'm negotiating anything, this could be in business, and this could be even with my fiance, like over like stuff for the house or something like that. I always take a moment and take a breath to just like, okay, this isn't what they're offering, isn't technically about you, right? Like, you don't know the full story of all their wants and needs. For example, this client offering $1,000, maybe that's the only budget that they have, right? Maybe that's the top end, right? And that's what they're offering, right? So for me, it's like I come back to, okay, thank you so much. And then kind of go through my process of explaining, well, actually, I think I deserve or should get X, Y, and Z, and then list out reasons why. Because maybe also they didn't see the reasons why. And oh, I do deserve to be paid more, or I do deserve to get that thing that, opposite of what my fiance wanted, because he didn't think about certain things that were important to the whatever we're working on or to me, that kind of a stuff. So I think when negotiating, if we let our feelings and emotions get involved, that's when I think you can get yourself in hot water. That's when also it can turn into those arguments and those fights because we start taking things super personally. When a lot of times, like negotiating, like it's just business, right? Like it really just is. And if you look at it like that and completely detach yourself from those emotions, and it's not about you, it's about whatever it is that we're working on, don't take it personally. I think that's when you can get to a situation where it could end up being better than it started off with, or you just learned how to have a really good, calm negotiation situation and take those skills on to the next one.
Absolutely. And I think you mentioned several key points here. It's like detaching emotions. It's not about you, it's about them. And also, it's about, this is a starting point, right? If someone tells you, oh, I'll pay you $1,000, or they tell you no for something, this is just the beginning. And that's not the
Yeah.
end. And I think that's where people a lot of time be confused, like, okay, they offer me just this. Okay, I cannot take it or whatever. It's just the
Yeah.
beginning.
Yes. Yes. Like, in fact, even, I guess one way that we negotiate in our business is with influencers, right? We have a product based business and we do a lot of outreach to influencers. And there are times of the year where we just literally have zero budget to pay them to post, right? Like, we will send them the free product, that sort of stuff. But we like are literally in a season where, hey, we just want to give some journals out to some people that we know we would probably love them. And then reply back. And it's really great to see how a lot of these women even respond. And a lot of times I'm on the other end, like reading these because I have to go through them and approve them. And some of them are very just hasty, like, no, my minimum post charge is X amount of dollars. Unless you have that, like, please don't contact me again, or something like something very standoffish and like kind of like rude, honestly. I'm like, okay, well, we're probably never going to reach out to you again. But then there's other women. I got this really good one the other day where she was like, thank you so much. I'd really love to receive your product, but I'm currently at capacity for gifting collaborations this quarter. If you have any budget in mind, or, I can send you over my portfolio, my rates, and we could discuss something. And I thought that response was just like so beautiful,
Yeah.
because she stated exactly where she's at, right? Like, cause we did a cold outreach and she told us exactly where she's at. I can't accept free collaborations right now. I'm at my quota for the month, right? Whether that's true or not for her, whatever, I don't care. But the way that she just positioned herself to be like, and also, here's my portfolio, here are my rates. I'm open to discussing further if you'd like to work together. And for someone like that, I'm like, wow, one, she's right off the bat showing me she can have a conversation, right? It's not about her, and money, money, money. It's like, this could be a beautiful working relationship. But if she came in like the other girl where it was like, no, like $500 is my limit, don't contact me again unless you have that, I'm never going to reach out to that person. So sometimes these times of negotiation give an opportunity for not just either getting that thing that is presented or to you, or to that you're presenting to someone else, but it's also a chance to network, to, okay, well, if it doesn't work out in this situation, and this is why even with job hunting and stuff like that, I say this to my clients all the time, like, no matter how the interview goes, like, always leave that situation on a positive note, even if you didn't get the job or whatever, right? Because you never know down the road. Like for us with this influencer, we're not going to work with her right now because she, we want to pay her. So we'll wait for the season that. So we're going to roll around in 6 months back to her when we're ready to work with her. Same thing goes for all other opportunities, right? Like maybe you're not a fit for this speaking thing or for this job role or something like that. But if you leave that situation, on a positive note, then that person's going to remember you later, maybe when you're a better fit for something else too.
Yes, and you mentioned the key word, I think, relationships. It's about relationships because, people work with people. And sometimes you have to think beyond like the immediate gains and think more long term, how you nurture those relationships, how you keep the doors open. And maybe something will happen in the future.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've had that happen so many times throughout my career where, maybe I applied for something or met someone somewhere and we thought something could happen on this project or whatever. And maybe, the timing wasn't right or the money wasn't right or the opportunity wasn't right. But always it's just building that relationship, that network where so many times, even just later, like years later, sometimes that person will pop back out of the blue and it's all like, hey, remember we talked about X, Y, and Z? Well, I have something similar and better. I've always had you in mind for this project or whatever. And you build that relationship. So it's all of negotiating and just building this inner self-worth and this confidence it's a blend. At the end of the day, it's just be a better human, right? I feel like that's what it is. Like just be a good human. And that's kind of, I feel like it all comes back to.
I completely agree with you. And my approach to negotiation is always thinking win-win. Always win-win.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. I feel like my fiance uses this one kind of like quote or saying, because he does a lot of negotiating deals. And it's like a good negotiation is when both parties walk away not fully excited, right? But like happy, and they don't feel like they were taken advantage of, right? Because at the end of the day, like it's a give and take situation, right? When it comes to negotiating. But when you can walk away and you're just like, yes, like that was wonderful. That was so good. And on both sides, I think that's a good, beautiful, balanced negotiation.
Absolutely. Completely agree with you. And before we end this beautiful conversation, tell us a little bit about your business and what you do.
Yes. So I'm the founder of the Manuscripting Journal, which is a beautiful morning routine journal for women. I created this because when I was in my mid-20s, I hit my rock bottom. Like I I hated so many things about my life. Loved so many things about my life, but there were so many key things that I disliked, including my own self-worth. And I had confidence, but my self-worth was just, you know, in the gutter and just with what I was doing with my life. So what I started doing was really getting clear and focused on the things that I actually wanted, what I wanted my life to look like, my job, my income, even my friends, my relationships, my partner. Like I got super clear on all of that. And for months, I would use this method that I now have in my journal to get clear on those things and to take action on those things. Because I feel like with the marriage scripting journal, yes, we tie it around manifestation and goal setting, but the manifestation is almost just kind of like a hook word to get people in because we're manifesting every single second of the day, whether you believe in it or not, like you are. Your thoughts, your actions, your feelings are all a result of what your life currently is today. And if you don't like something about today, you have the ability and power to change it, not necessarily overnight, but taking that action, having that, knowing exactly what it is that you want, and you go for those things. Eventually, it's going to change over time. So, the Marriage Coaching Journal is a journal that helps you get super clear on those things. It has lots of questions in it in the beginning, like a workbook section, and then daily entries that take less than 10 minutes a day to do. And it's completely changed my life. And I turned it into a physical product 3.5 years ago during the pandemic, when I was in a completely different career. E-commerce was not even, on the radar to have a product-based business. But when I started sharing this with people in my community, I started getting this feedback of, oh my gosh, this is literally helping me so much right now during a time when, the whole world was, felt like it was falling apart, right? And it was in that moment that I had that idea, that like gut feeling. I was like, oh my gosh, this needs to be a product. This needs to be a book, not just some PDF download that you get online, but this needs to be something so beautiful that can be out in the world. And I just dove straight in to start manufacturing it, creating the brand, launching it. And now here we are 3.5 years later, thousands and thousands and thousands of journals and women and testimonials from the journal out in the world. So that is what I do now.
That's beautiful. And I'll be happy to put the link to your manuscript journal. And, there's something about having something physical, tangible, that is so valuable and different than everything is digital, right? Everything we do online, but and also the process of handwriting, it has power.
Yes, so much power. And that's why I was like, even just saying earlier in this conversation, right? Like when you're getting clear on those goals, the power of writing them down, because now you see them. Your subconscious mind can process those things. They're not just thoughts swirling around in your head that are mixing with those, thoughts that are keeping you safe and comfortable, right? It's like, oh, I really want to get this job and make $100,000 a year. And then there's that other thought in your head, like, who are you to think I don't want to like make 100,000, right? You're fighting with your own inner thoughts. So when you write these things down, it's like you're writing them, you're seeing them, you're thinking them. And then now as you're thinking and writing them, you're feeling that in your body, because what you're writing down, those are the things that you desire, that you want, right? So of course, in turn, you should have a feeling or an emotion when you have this excitement. And the power of doing this every single day and morning is then when you have that on your mind first thing, all the next things that happen throughout your day, you're going to be reacting from a place of remembering those goals that you have. So it's like a chain reaction of how you can slowly start changing your life. Because, for example, say it is going out to get that job, or maybe it's health related or weight loss related, right? It's like, say any of those goals are top of mind, you're going to make decisions for the rest of the day. Say it's like, okay, well, I really need to go get that new job. And then maybe a couple hours later, you're like scrolling online and you're like, oh, I should really like go apply for jobs right now, right? And you're like downing yourself, like, oh no, I'll do that tomorrow. But if you're constantly having these thoughts top of mind, you're more be like, no, well, I wrote, like, I know I said to myself today, I'm going to go start applying for jobs. Or I said to myself to today, like, I'm going to start eating better or going to the gym more. Like, that is part of my action plan to get myself to those goals. And I think a lot of people, we create these New Year's resolutions, for example, right? We set all these big goals at the beginning of the year, and within a couple weeks, that excitement has burnt off because you wrote it down maybe at the beginning of the year, you maybe created a vision board or something, right? And those things are really popular to do at the beginning of the year. But it's not something you just do one time and you hope and wish and wait for it to fall into your lap, right? Like we also have to go take that action. And sometimes, depending on what's going on in your world, it can be tough to wake up in the morning feeling excited about your goals, especially if you're living in a life that you're not in alignment with. Like if you're unhappy with your job or your financial situation, right? Like those thoughts usually come pouring in first when you first wake up. So instead, as soon as that happens, wake up, get into your journaling, get into the manuscripting journal, and it will help you get clear. It's kind of like that reset. And when you do it at day after day after day after day after day, like the proof is in the pudding, like you're ultimately going to change your life.
Absolutely. That's incredible, Samantha. So many great tips. And before we end, is there anything else you would like to share with our audience?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, when it comes to whether it's negotiating, building that inner self-worth, that confidence, going for your goals, your dreams, your desires, it's really hard sometimes to all of a sudden decide to make that switch. So I always recommend like joining or following the people on social, like if you follow like if you're on social media, follow people that inspire you. Join communities, find people that can be your cheerleaders, or find people that you can get support from. Like, hey, today I'm going to go for this job. Like, it's really hard to do these things alone, and I don't think we're meant to. So finding a support system as you're making these changes or as you're incorporating anything new, that way, when things don't go as you planned, or when you're feeling nervous or scared to step out of that comfort zone, like you have that person that you can lean on for support. I think that's really, really key, because if you don't, I feel like that's when people stay stuck, complacent. You're not, building that confidence, you're not going for your goals. So really getting some additional support with people that like truly, truly believe in you is super important.
Absolutely. Support system is critical. And how people can find you, Samantha?
Yeah. So with me, I am really on Instagram a lot. That's kind of where I share behind the scenes of life a little bit, business, motivational stuff, helpful tips to, help you like change your life. I feel like it starts with you, right? With what you're doing on a daily basis of your thoughts, your feelings and emotions. So I share a lot of that there. And I have a podcast as well. It's called Money, Mindset, and Manicures. So you can listen there, and manuscripting.com for the journal.
Perfect. I'll share all that. And thank you so much for being here today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode. I hope you enjoyed the conversation I had with Samantha as much as I did. And I would love to hear your comments and what else you would like to hear from us. The conversation doesn't end here. And I'm super excited to share about my guest next week. Her name is Lee Honeywell, and she's an entrepreneur. She's an experienced cybersecurity professional, but also, a co-founder of Tall Poppy. And we'll dive into negotiation, but not just negotiation. We'll also talk about the biases of women entrepreneurs when trying to raise funds. And talk a little bit about how to increase women representation in cybersecurity. So definitely you don't want to miss that episode. Please subscribe to my podcast to receive notifications when a new episode comes in. And stay tuned for what we have next on negotiations. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.